It's time to get the breakdown started. 1, 2, 3. First up, 10 observations.
Just took his guy and just boom, just put him right on the ground.
It's first and 10. Number 1.
So I caused a lot of consternation on Twitter a couple of hours ago because I tweeted out that I was going to start the show by explaining why I did not think that this game, despite my initial observations watching it, was nearly as much on Eric Bieniemy, and that there was a clear number one person at fault for the loss yesterday. And I regret to inform everybody that that person is Sam Howell. Now, how predictable that is based off where he is in his career, the defense he was going against, and all of that stuff is 100% on the table for debate, and the things we'll get to in number 2 and number 3 in this very here, first and 10. But there gets to be a point as a play caller where you probably look down. I have not called plays outside of Madden, but I would imagine you look down at your sheet, you look up at your quarterback, you look down at your sheet, and you go, what the bleep on this sheet is that guy going to do? And I think that's where Eric Bieniemy had to at least mentally be yesterday. I thought in watching the game live that they were dropping him back way too much, that there was not enough quick game answers, easy solutions to get the ball out of Sam Howell's hands quickly and efficiently and keep him safe from sacks and pressures. And the reality is that when you go back and watch it, there was. I think there's ways they could have enhanced that. I think there's more they could have done. We'll get there. But if you can't complete a 5-yard hitch, like what? You're an NFL quarterback. Like, and at some point, we have to look at Sam Howell and say, I know you're a 5th-round guy. I know you're young. I know this is your 8th start. I know all of these things. I know that I want certain things to happen from a play calling and a sequencing standpoint to make your job easier. But there's a baseline of competency of NFL quarterbacking that if you can't complete, that's on you. And I don't mean, I almost regret saying that way because it sounds so harsh, right? It's not like I'm trying to sit here and be the hot take artist, like, get Sam Howell out of here. But the reality is, he stunk yesterday. He was really, really bad. And I'm talking mentally. And this is before, like, second half where I'm just like, this dude is shell-shocked. But he's also the reason he got to the point that he was shell-shocked. Physically, missing throws, just bad mistakes, overthrows. I mean, there's one, I think it's the first or second drive. I think tomorrow we're literally going to go through every offensive play of the first half and be like, this is where it went wrong. And what's going to happen a lot is Sam missing dudes. And he's got a hitch to Curtis. He literally hits it the next drive. He's capable. It's a really easy throw by NFL standards. It's man-to-man. Corner's playing a little bit off. Bang, bang. Should be an easy, like, extended handoff. Throws it high and outside. Curtis can't come down with it because it's way outside of his catch radius. That's on Sam. And if Sam completes that on a 1st and 10, you're in 2nd and 4, not 2nd and 10. And your whole offense changes. And there are multiple throws in that first half where sometimes he just reads it right and he doesn't make the throw. And other times there are dudes wide open. And if we went through it and paused the tape and I showed you guys who wanted to scream your heads off at Eric Bieniemy where some of these open guys are, and I told you at this point, when the back foot hits, the ball should be on its way out, and this is the guy it should be going to, you would go, oh, well, maybe there are solutions. Maybe there are answers. Maybe it's all not the coach/play caller's fault. Because eventually you do have to make the throws as a quarterback. And by the way, you also have to set protections. This is another area where Sam struggled yesterday. And I know, hey, well, why? They knew pressure was going to come. I could also, I did this game with my wife today on the couch. I said, Rachel, you want to play a football numbers game? And she looks up from her laptop and she goes, sure. And I go, okay, how many helmets are over here that are red? 4. How many helmets that are blue? 3. Okay, cool. Let's come to this side of the protection. How many helmets are red? 2. How many are blue? 1. And she, before I even get to the fun part, she goes, but there's that guy in the middle that nobody's blocking. And I'm like, yep, that's a problem. That's not good. You didn't identify the correct blitzers, because if you did, then that guy where you've got 4-on-3 on one side and 2-on-1 on the other, meaning you got 2 extra dudes in protection, you don't have a free blitzer. And some of that on the protection itself? Absolutely. Sometimes it's Nick Gates getting beat one-on-one by Leonard Williams. Sometimes it's Nick Gates or Sadiq Charles not passing off a stunt and not protecting the right guy in the correct call. But there, I would say, about half the sacks feel like they didn't have the right protection called in the first place, and it's stuff that your quarterback has to get right to protect himself. A couple other ones, I think I had 2 that I saw. I looked like they were on Logan Thomas. So your tight end in pass protection. Why did they keep the tight end in? They did. Why did they do it in the first half? They did. The running backs and tight ends were in probably more this game than they were all season in any game. They weren't always blocking the right guy, but they might have been blocking who they were told to. And that's the stuff that we'll get into in extensive detail tomorrow on Take Command with Logan. But at the end of the day, your quarterback has to mentally and physically execute the offense. And the number one, and with the plan they had yesterday, if their quarterback at a 70, 80% clip executes mentally and physically the offense, they win that game probably 21-7. That's the bottom line. Now, I am Mr. Nuance, especially in the sports talk radio world. I got nothing on Logan, but I am Mr. Nuance when it comes to people who talk into these microphones over here and over there on the fan. I will give more gray area and more stuff than anybody else. And there's more stuff. About to get to it. But the bottom line, the number one contributor to why they lost yesterday is Sam Howell played a dreadfully bad football game. And that needs to be taken in by everybody, and we'll spend the week putting that in context. But to be clear, Sam Howell yesterday played a dreadful football game.
Number 2.
So, how do they create an ecosystem where that doesn't happen? And this is where EB could have helped him out more. Eric Bieniemy was fine yesterday. Eric Bieniemy was not great yesterday, in my opinion. There's about 2 or 3 things that I think he could have done either sooner or more. One, I do not understand what's going on with the screen game in this offense. And it almost feels like a lazy take because it's so obvious. And I would love to know why they don't feel like they can call more screens. Maybe they don't trust their own linemen. They have picked up a fair amount of holding penalties on screens. And maybe they're just terrible at them in practice and they always hold and they always grab. And they're like, God, if we call this, all we're going to do is wind up getting behind the sticks. That's about as good of an excuse as I can think of, which would be pretty legitimate. But at the end of the day, you got to try. They never yesterday, and here's the screen game thing in a larger, smarter thought, rather than just call more screens. They never took the Giants' aggression and weaponized it against them. That's what the screen game does. And the Commanders never figured out how to take the Giants' strength and turn it into a weakness. And I think that definitely hurt Sam's ability to execute mentally and physically at a higher level because you don't ever slow down the pass rush and you don't get, whether it's easy 5-6 yard gains, you don't have to get 30 on a screen. You don't have to score on a screen. A 6-yard gain's great. Give me a 6-yard gain. The Chiefs last night, in their game, their final touchdown drive, they called one on a 2nd and 6 and picked up a first down, and 5 plays later called one on 1st and goal from the 9, and it wound up being a touchdown to Pacheco. Give me those. Give me easy completions in a 2nd and 8 situation where the Giants are known to bring pressure. I also think he could have moved the pocket sooner because I think Sam, while he gave Sam easy completions, he didn't actually complete them. And I think Sam might be one of these quarterbacks that needs to feel the game a little bit. I don't know whether that means you run him earlier in the game, let him take a hit he's initiating, not because he's getting sacked. Whatever it is, they got to find ways to get him comfortable early. And I don't think they did that yesterday. But I do think, again, going back, the reason number 1 is number 1 and number 2 is number 2 is because if you can't throw a 5-yard hitch and that doesn't help you get comfortable, then I, as a play caller, am going, oh, God, we're in for a long day. And then the other thing, too, Terry talked about this as much as Terry McLaurin will ever say anything. I don't want to say insightful because it's not that he doesn't give insight. Insight is INCITE. He will incite something. they could have gotten to some shot plays, I think, quicker in that game. They got to find a way to get Terry the football more. There was a lot of man-to-man. How do you get those matchups and take some shots down the field where you know, hey, this is man-to-man, there's no safety help, 2 steps and the ball is out? They got some of those later on in the game. I wish they would have gotten them earlier. And you saw the Giants, by the way, back the Commanders off a little bit by that early shot to Jalen Hyatt. That's where I think that EB could have done better for Sam yesterday. But at the end of the day, like, you get to a lot of that stuff by converting early in drives, getting that quick game going. Let me hit 1, 2 quick ones, get a run play. Now I'm in 2nd and 4 around midfield, and now I can hit my shot and maybe score on it. Like, that's the way a lot of NFL offenses operate at the highest levels, and they couldn't get past 1st and 2nd down yesterday because Sam was missing the easy stuff. So that's why number 1 is number 1. That is number 2. EB's got to continue to find ways that are custom fit to Sam to get him going, and I really don't understand the screen game thing. But this also exists within an even larger context.
Number 3.
This roster's flawed, and the way it's built makes no bleeping sense. You have youth and inexperience surrounding youth and inexperience. And what I mean by that is, like, a guy like Sadiq Charles. Could you develop Sadiq Charles into being a pretty good guard? Probably. But he's very inexperienced, and he's young, and he's playing with a quarterback who is young and inexperienced and is not going to always help him out in protection by getting him in the optimal spot. And he's playing next to a center in Nick Gates, who, while a veteran, has missed a ton of time with injuries and is actually not that experienced. So, and he's also, like, he's an average NFL center, maybe. Like, we're just not talking about, like, the best at any positions along the line. And if you're not spending money on a quarterback, then where are you spending this money? And if you want to win with this quarterback, how could you not have given him more experienced, better offensive linemen? Like, spend some freaking money there. And I'm not talking about Andrew Wiley. Andrew Wiley's fine if he's your 5th best lineman, or your 4th best lineman, maybe even your 3rd. But he's probably not 3rd, because he might be your 3rd. So there's that. It doesn't seem like the running backs fit. Like, what if you had a stud running back? What if this team had been in a position to draft Bijan? Like, would they have? Because that would help Sam Howell out a lot. You see what Saquon does for Tyrod Taylor yesterday. Or like a stud tight end. Logan Thomas is good. What happens if you give him a stud who's open all the time in the middle of the field and is super reliable? Like, Cole Turner's been a 0 this year. I like Cole Turner as an idea, but we now have Cole Turner in practice. It's not good. So, to me, the most important things that I take out of this game here in 1st and 10, and then we'll get to my final 7 observations in quicker, more rapid-fire nature next, is Sam Howell had a really bad game, and that is the most important thing in terms of the result from yesterday. That is probably influenced on some level by the fact that Eric Bieniemy could have helped him out more, but it all exists within the context that the team could be helping him out more. This roster has off-season type of problems, aka they had a bad off-season, and it's going to need to be fixed in the off-season, and unfortunately, for all of us right now, we're in the middle of the season. Our final 7 observations next. It's 1st and 10, the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And continuing with our 1st and 10, let's hit it.
Number 4.
The run game has to be better. This is part design, part execution. I do think that there's certain run plays like counter that they run pretty well, and they don't seem to run a lot of. And I think yesterday they found something running out of or from under center. The angles are better. It's better vision for the running back. There's a lot of benefits to it. Unfortunately, most of their pass game is from the shotgun. It seems to be what Sam Howell likes. I don't think running out of the gun is also like the worst thing ever, but they're not good at it right now. And I don't know whether it's the backs don't fit what Bieniemy wants. I don't know whether it's being coached great. I mean, Randy Jordan's coached under 1,000 offensive coordinators, it feels like. It's really only been the different variations of Jay Gruden and Bill Callahan, and then obviously Scott Turner, and now Eric Bieniemy, here. I don't know. Are they getting it coached up right? Chris Rodriguez seems to have it better. Like, what is it that is causing this run game that should be potent with the backs they have to not be good? Is the line not getting any push? But whatever it is, it's got to be better. I'd also love to see Curtis Samuel get back involved in the run game. And you have to run him 3 times a game. That's fine with me. Like, figure out how to get a run game going, because that also can help your young quarterback out. Yesterday, specifically, things that held them back.
Number 5.
What was going on with the penalties yesterday on the offensive line? It seemed like they were spooked. Like, Charles Leno, you got to hold your stance, man. Andrew Wiley, hold your stance. Sadiq Charles, Sam Cosmi had one. You got holds, you got, false starts. You got everything yesterday. And it just seemed like the pressure, they were uncomfortable. And, that's what pressure does. And ultimately, if you want to take an even bigger picture at yesterday's game specifically, the Giants were the team that dictated the terms yesterday. And the penalties were a part of that. The Giants put the Commanders under pressure. They didn't respond well in their execution. And they couldn't even, get the snap off sometimes. That was, yeah. Oh.
Number 6.
The linebacker issues. They came out of last year saying they wanted to be better at linebacker. We all know what happened this offseason. They didn't do a whole lot. The guy they did sign finally started playing better in Cody Barton, and then he gets hurt yesterday. And then I see these very silly tweets that actually drive me nuts of, how come David Mayo's in coverage? Because he's a linebacker, and that's what linebackers do sometimes. You can't play your backup, expect him to be as good as your starter, and also ask him to not do the thing that's part of the job. He can't just blitz on every play. What do you want him to do? Yeah, the matchups aren't good sometimes. That's why he's a backup. But that's what happens when you don't address the position in the offseason. And oh, by the way, the guy who should be better at coverage, Jamin Davis, is probably responsible for both touchdowns that the Giants score. He plays with good leverage on the Waller touchdown. The idea there is as the Tampa 2 player, he's dropping, and he correctly identifies the threat. He makes sure that Waller doesn't cross back in front of him and split the safeties in the middle of the field. He expects probably a little bit more help from Percy Butler out wide, but he's got receivers to deal with. And Jamin just runs 4 yards away from Darren Waller up the center of the field. That's the threat, man. You've identified it. You're good that you didn't let him cross your face, but you need to be a little bit, you need to be an arm's distance of his face so that if a ball gets thrown, you can whack it down. Not good. And then he got Saquon because that happens. I'm less mad about that. He got beaten one-on-one coverage by a guy who's a nightmare to deal with in one-on-one coverage. So, linebacker issues. Back at it yesterday. Sweet.
Number 7.
We'll talk about the John Allen comments later in the show. But it's actually something that Chase Young said after the game that has me miffed. And I'm genuinely confused by it. So I don't know if even miffed is the right word. Chase Young yesterday said a lot of the right things afterwards where, hey, how do you feel about your 2 sacks? Don't care, we lost. Okay, cool. But he said, I got to do a better job of leading by example in practice. What are you doing in practice, man? What is going on in practice that Chase Young is the best player on the field and doesn't feel like he's doing a good job of leading in practice? Intrepid... Paging all intrepid reporters.
Paging all intrepid reporters. Paging all intrepid reporters. What is happening at practice that Chase Young feels like there needs to be more focus and he needs to do a better job at practice?
Because one, if he's goofing around in practice or something or whatever he's doing in practice that he thinks he needs to do better at, what's everyone else doing that he's better than all of them when it comes to Sundays, or most of them when it comes to Sundays? And 2, how good could he be if he starts applying himself if he's not in some way? Maybe Chase is just saying something, but that one made my ears perk up. That was weird. I would like to know more there.
Number 8.
Number 8. We got the math right. Hooray! The defensive line, as a whole, speaking of Chase and John Allen, they made plays yesterday. For all the ways that game went wrong, the defensive line did its job yesterday. Multiple sacks. They had pressure on Taylor on a bunch of other plays. They had tackles for losses. John Allen had one play in the start of the second half where he hits that hump move. He gets past his guard, and he just destroys Saquon 4 yards deep in the backfield. First play of the game, Daron Payne is 4 yards deep in the backfield. The fumble Payne forces, good God. They needed that. That kept them in the game. And then ultimately, obviously, the game-tying drive falls short as Jahan Dotson has the drop on fourth down. But that play from Daron Payne is massive. This defense did, the line at least, did the things that you were supposed to do if you're them against that offensive line. Tyrod did a really good job of getting the ball out. They did a good job of moving the pocket. They did a good job with the offensive play calling to try to mitigate the O-line issues that they have. But overall, like, the Commanders still found ways through all of that stuff to make plays. Good job, D-line, even though, as Chase said, doesn't matter. You still
Number
lost.
9.
I hated Ron Rivera's game management yesterday. Just the 4th and 3 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Go for that. Your defense is playing great. If you're at your own 9-yard line, you often in those situations can get touchdowns because they try to guard. Either you get a touchdown because they heavy guard the sticks on a 4th and 3 from the 9, or you have an easy first down because they guard the end zone. Like, that is a great prime go for it situation. And if you miss, theoretically, it's probably an incompletion. It's their ball inside their own 10-yard line, and their offense hasn't done jack squat the entire half. Freaking go for it, man. And then I would also say that the decision to decline or to accept the penalty on the play before the Giants' first touchdown is a much more defendable mistake. It's going to be 4th and goal from the 2. Instead, it's 3rd and goal from the 15. They throw a touchdown to Waller. I would probably rely on the fact that they're not going to go for it there and just take the field goal attempt. And if they go for it, like, your defense has been great in those situations. Okay, I'm willing to take that risk. It's the first quarter. If they get it, they get it. Cool, we'll go down and respond offensively. We don't know at that point that the offense is probably incapable of that. I did not like that decision. Last but not least, a shout out.
Number 10.
Tressway was great yesterday. Never great when your punter's setting personal best. He had 7 punts for 350 yards in the first half. He caused multiple fumbles because he just got the ball up in the wind at MetLife and let nature take its course. Tressway, excellent job to you yesterday, sir. That's 1st and 10. We do it the day after the game each and every Monday here on the Team 980. 10 thoughts from the Commanders, in this case, loss.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Tell your mama I said what's up.